welcome all of the participants of the program, Cohort 22. Welcome to Lucy, our graduate from our program, who is going to be sharing with us a demonstration. And welcome to all of our guests who arrived. We may still have a couple of more people showing up, but we're going to start with the people who are here. So thank you for being on time. And I know that we have some guests, and I'm not sure how much you know about supervision, but supervision is a reflective space where the coach brings his or her work to the supervisor to reflect together on the work. So if this is not about telling people what to do, we like to separate the word into supervision. Like we take a distance and we have a view of our work. And in that way, we can look at blind spots. We can discuss ethical dilemmas, what's happening to us working with our clients. So it's a reflective space, it's a collaborative space between colleagues. So welcome, Kimberly. Kimberly, one of our graduates from our program. Great to see you here. And what we are going to do is we are going to ask Lucy, maybe before we start, we're going to watch a recording together of the session. And then we are going to go to small groups to discuss the learnings. So the question for you is, what do you learn about supervision by watching this recording? And the focus is on Lucy and what Lucy is doing as a supervisor and learning from her what happened in that space. So Lucy, do you want to share for people who do not know you a little bit about you?
Sure.
Who you are, what you do? I'm going to give you a spotlight so people can see you.
Oh no, here we go. Thank you, Damien, for this invitation and opportunity. So I will start with saying I'm a graduate of Cohort 15. Yes, I checked. So I self-identify as a leadership coach and a systemic team coach. And if somebody was to ask me what type of coach I am, I would say I was a systemic coach. I do systemic coaching. And I've been coaching now for 14 years, going on 14 years. I'll be completing that in June. So it's been a journey and a good one at that. I work in the corporate space, individually and with teams, and also have some team engagements in the public sector, within healthcare. And I've also done teamwork with communities, like an arts community. So very much interested in people's perspectives on coaching around systemic coaching as well as team. This particular demo I'll share a little bit is with an individual coach. I have done some, Damien, you know this, I have a few recordings on team coaching supervision, but for today it's individual coaching supervision, and I love it. So as soon as I started supervision, I think our first time I went, okay, this is it. I'm doing supervision as a sideline, as a continuous process with my work. And I also would love to experiment doing supervision with leaders, leaders who are coach-like or who want to be more like coaches. Yeah.
Great, Lucy. Anything you want to tell us about your client? Just anything we need to know, just to give a little bit of context about the coach you're working with?
So the coach I'm working with that I brought for today's session, she's a coach that I know through the community. I'm based in the Toronto area. So she and I are serving on the awards judging panel for the ICF Toronto Awards. It's my third year, it's her second. And so I invited her to do supervision with me as a way for her and I to get to know each other. And she coaches individuals as her main practice.
Great. Anything else you would like us to know before we start and we jump into the recording?
The nature of the coaching is, I wasn't sure what case she would bring, but you'll notice that I had her think about a particular case as well as to consider what topic she wants to bring into supervision. So I chose this one because it helps to identify helps the coach to associate their topic with a particular person, and then it evolved into a specific insight for her. I don't know, Damien, if you had a chance to listen to it, but it was Yeah. It's an interesting revelation. And I will say that this coaching topic is common in a sense that it's come up with many of my in the supervision sessions with others, which is around providing value. So I chose it for that.
That's great. So I want to invite everybody to take some notes when you observe the session. So then we will go to small groups and you will share in your small groups some of the notes, some of the observations, some of the learnings from the session. So let's jump to share the session. I'm going to be sharing the session. Let's see if it works well. So can you see it?
I see it.
See, it says missing. Okay.
I will show you how to
Let me just start from the beginning.
minimize self-view later on. So we started the recording, Paula, and I will show you how to minimize self-view later on. Thank you for agreeing to do this supervision demo with me. The recording is to be shared with a cohort, a supervision cohort for learning purposes. So I really appreciate that you made time with me.
Well, thank you for offering.
Yeah, you're welcome. And to get us started, I think you before we started the recording, you said it. Let's take a deep breath. So, what would be useful, helpful to you to get settled into a supervision call with me?
I don't know, maybe just closing our eyes and just knowing, just presencing what we're about to do. I think that would be good.
I like that. It's already settled me down. So here we go.
That was good. That allowed me to shift from where I just came from, to now.
Good. So where are you at right now?
I'm presence to what we're up to, and you've been in the contemplation of, is this a good topic to bring to supervision?
I love it.
So I think that's on my mind. It's like, is it a good one? But you know what? It is on my mind. So, okay, why not?
How would you like to share it with me, the topic?
In my verbose way. Yeah, but actually it's not so verbose. So it's one I've been thinking about a lot, especially as I was gearing up to do PCC and getting more refined in my coaching and that. But it's one I can't shake, and so that's why I really thought it'd be a great opportunity to get some supervision on it. Maybe to see it in a couple of perspectives. I think that's would be kind of good for me too, because I have it like it's kind of, maybe it's wrong or bad based on how I've been taught or what have you. So gotcha. I'll share the question. So how do I show up as myself? And I'm going to say I'm kind of I'm an inherent cheerleader for people. And so being a cheerleader for people, it's like when I think about the approach of how to be cleaner in the coaching, I feel that I don't feel it gets in the way, but I want to make sure it's not getting in the way
Okay.
of good coaching. But it's so much a part of who I am. That's why I'm bringing it, because it's about bringing your whole self as a coach to any conversation that is a coaching conversation. And I'm like I said, I'm an inherent cheerleader, and I'm thinking that sometimes that's good and maybe sometimes that's not. And so it's just knowing that maybe it's okay to, so I think it's just struggling with that piece.
Mm. Is there a particular client or scenario that you find challenging or applicable to this topic for you? To give us more
It's,
context.
yeah, there isn't, because it's so pervasive in like all of my coaching.
I
So
got,
it's,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's kind of across the board. Like I don't necessarily see it with difficult clients, or I don't necessarily see it with like clients that are really into coaching. Like it's just,
I'll tell you why I'm asking that question.
yeah,
Just going to interrupt you for a second here. For the sake of clarity,
yeah,
when you can think of a particular person
yeah,
that this struggles, someone you are coaching currently,
yeah,
or I've coached in the past, but for learning purposes, there may be something systemically that we
yeah,
could pick up on as signals and learning for you.
yeah, good point. Yeah, so let's see. Maybe it's someone right now who's a fairly new client. Yeah, so I have someone in mind right now who's a newer client. And it's funny that that's coming to my mind, because
Mm.
I think I think I'm still learning about how she expresses herself, and learning about
Mm.
what she needs out of a coach. And so maybe that's actually, it's probably a good one to contemplate this on, because it's not that it's not working. It's not like what I'm doing is not working. It's just that it's new. And so it may be helpful to notice if it's showing up with clients like this more so than maybe other clients. Oh, Lucy, I think you got on mute.
I want you to visualize, it's just some noise around me, so I just want to make sure it doesn't
Sure.
interrupt you. There's the visualizing and working with that particular person, and how what's and what shows up for you,
Mm-hmm.
what's mirrored in some ways, what shows
Mm-hmm.
up for us today, right now, as we're speaking, that may inform you about showing up as your true self. And so it informs us, it being the the system. And just remember, one of the pillars of supervision is it's a reflective practice in your learning journey in service of you as a coach, your client, and the coaching profession.
Mm. Yeah.
So it's in that context, really, like how is our combined, complex interrelated systems being impacted by how you show up as a coach in
Yeah.
your most authentic self? What comes up for you as I share that?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, that last piece. I never would have thought about it from a coaching profession standpoint, but I think I have thought about it, and that's probably why I,
Mhm.
wonder if I'm kind of like not doing it the ICF way, or like, so that I think that's a big part of it. Maybe that's why I brought it, because in all of the learning I've had, it's not that I've been unlearning it, but I probably have been softening it, or I've been relying on it less in maybe in the spirit of different coaching, or maybe what I think is better coaching. So that's an interesting piece that I think that's something to pay attention to. But from the point of view of this client, she is a client from India, and being of East Indian descent myself, I recognize some things in her as well, and maybe not just because I'm East Indian, but I recognize some things in people, and maybe what I'm picking up on with her is she's very respectful in when she chimes in on things and responds to things. She really it's almost like she gives so much space to me, because that's just, I think, just like from a cultural standpoint, that's kind of how it is. It's like, be considerate, like don't speak over somebody, and things like that.
Love that. I mean, it's a cultural context, coaching within a cultural context.
Yeah. So, but so I think there's a cultural element of that in terms of what I'm seeing with her, but the piece that's very interesting too is, and maybe I'm actually inherently picking up on this, is two things. She doesn't get a lot of recognition from people.
Mhm.
And secondly, I don't know if she acknowledges herself or says good job to herself. And so I wonder if there's a piece of that I'm trying to fill in a gap or something.
Hmm. I'm noticing a feeling inside me, like in the pit of my stomach, some sort of like flutter. I don't know how to explain it, like a flutter of like a butterfly, like wants to escape, wants to come out. I don't even know what that means but it's like this flutter that's happening in my tummy, and it's a signal of my intuition's telling me something. So I'm curious, what is your intuition telling you?
Maybe it's something that I kind of already know, is like, sometimes maybe do I feel like my role as a coach is to fill in gaps for people that they don't get to experience in their own day-to-day work or their own day-to-day lives. And that cheerleader piece, it's not so overt. Like I'm not like when I think of cheerleader, the way I brought this into this discussion is not the way I'm showing up here,
Yeah.
but it's really interesting. I think I'm commingling two concepts here, and
Okay.
maybe I've deemed it cheerleading versus yeah, maybe I'm it's interesting. Maybe I'm not showing up as much of as a cheerleader as I thought in this case, because I haven't what I've expressed to you is not something I've even taken the time to articulate in my own reflective practice as to what's happening here. Crazy how this works.
What are you noticing about that right now?
How important it is to reflect on what I'm experiencing with somebody. Like, I go from, I'm on a roster, and I go from a session to session sometimes. And even if there's a gap, like a nice gap, the reflective practice is not something I'm really dialed into all the time.
Yeah.
But even saying this is almost like bringing out what's in me out, which is an important, like it's important to say those things out loud, so that I can notice if I'm doing it or not doing something. So it's interesting. When we talked
Yeah.
about cheerleading, it's like that I went to this client, but I don't know if I'm actually showing up there. But I think what I haven't acknowledged yet in this particular client's case, is how much I'm noticing about her, that is impacting me, and then how I need to show up for her.
Yeah.
And maybe not cheerleader is the right word, but maybe it's like, you know, am I doing this actually quite consistently with everybody? It's like, what is my role here? Am I trying to fill a gap as well as be a good coach?
Mm-hmm. I'm drawn by two things to what you're saying. One is you mentioned or you're referring to, what am I assuming?
Yeah.
What are the assumptions here to explore further about this
I like
client
the
or
way
any other?
I like the
Mhm.
way you put it. It's funny though. I guess when I think about it is I don't even think that it's an assumption to explore further. I think I haven't figured out.
Oh, wow. Now I'm feeling like, okay, now I'm feeling a sense of, I don't know, like excitement or release. Like, oh, we got to something. What are you noticing?
Well, it's this reliance on like instinct, right? It's like, "Oh, I think this is it. I think this is what."
Ah,
And so therefore I'm in the spirit of doing good coaching, I'm also going to add this little piece in here. And
mm,
maybe in this case it's not cheerleading, maybe it's a little bit of it's a softer cheerleading, but maybe it's about filling, like maybe what I've been doing is like assessing people and saying, okay, I know where you know, but not testing the assumption.
mm,
And I think sometimes early on, because it's, you know, it's you're really trying to get a handle on who these people are and what they're, you know, what they're about and what makes them tick and all of these things, what they're bringing and is there themes and all this. And I think it only comes later on for me to say, oh wow, I was really wrong on that one. So I wonder if it is about testing the assumptions, like just good practice.
mhm.
Test the assumption or challenge the assumption. It's like I maybe asking myself the question, okay, good on you. You think you know, good on you. But could there be a possibility that's incorrect? And then could you be so then what I'm doing is I'm responding with what I think.
Yeah.
Um, which could take you down a different path in how you
Yes.
work with a client.
Now consider the person that you had in mind that brought all this up for you, who is
Mhm.
of East Asian descent, and and brings up certain cultural nuances of being, I don't know, you didn't use this word, just of being what did you say? Holding
Like she doesn't she very patient around
patient,
when she
yeah,
speaks, and then
tolerant,
secondly,
yeah.
yeah, and then
It
like
creates lots of space for you
yeah,
or something.
yeah,
And
and then
yeah.
secondly about like her um not giving herself enough credit or knowing that she's not getting enough credit. I think I've been picking that up in the conversations.
Yeah.
And so I don't, again, I'm making some calls that I think it's right, but it's in all the speaking of the things that she's saying, I'm making those deductions. Um,
Mm.
but it shows
Okay.
you it again, it speaks to how much I'm trying to analyze people.
Well, you're reading into the situation,
Mhm.
and I'm hearing you say, "What if I check my assumption on that?"
Yeah, it's almost like, Lucy, I have to like privately check my assumption on that.
Okay.
And then you know, play that back even potentially early on.
Yes.
Which I do because I mean, in a lot of cases, I'm actually pretty good. Like it's confirmed, but maybe I do that later on. Like maybe I don't do that because I don't do this step of checking my assumptions to myself first.
Mm.
Because I guess if you check your assumptions first, then you leave room for possibility that it could be different. Where if you don't do that, you're kind of in autopilot, kind of like, oh, I'm working towards this goal that she's feeling like this because of this and this and this, what she said. And then you kind of run roughshod, like thinking that, yep, that's it, until it's proven wrong. But maybe in that a bit of reflection, I can really hear myself going, oh, wow, that's interesting. You're
I'm
thinking that.
noticing in myself something here, Paula, for you, and that is authenticity. Like it being authentic to that feeling, and you were like, okay, you're making that assumption, and it's autopilot.
Yeah,
Let's say like in terms of how you reflected on your
yeah,
how you do show up, how you've shown up in the past, and now thinking about it from a different lens, which is, well, what if in
yeah,
that moment you check that assumption and you verbalize it with yourself,
yeah, first.
and yeah, with yourself, and go, wait a minute, let me check this, and then check it.
Yeah,
How would that be of service to your client and to her stakeholders, in a sense, systemically? Like, you're helping her to see herself in a certain way by seeing yourself in a certain way,
yeah,
and therefore, like, yeah, deepen the conversation. I'm guessing, I'm supposing right now.
yeah. Well, you know, I think what could come out of that is, this is going to sound very
Go for it.
very I don't know what the word is, but it doesn't matter. I think um there's a big part of me that likes to be right, right?
Mhm.
And it likes to be right about people, right? Like I got the right read on people, even as a coach, no matter how curious I can be. And so I think this has come up actually interestingly, come up in even my mentoring when I was going through PCC. Um, it's about this need to kind of problem solve. And so, and then because I get to problem solve a bit, it's like I get to show how smart I am.
Mhm.
So to other people that I got you figured out. And so that's kind of really like, ooh, that's kind of like, there's a lot about me in here.
What do you notice about that? What do you notice in that?
It's not about me.
Mm.
Yeah. So there's a little bit of ego in there
Mhm.
about being able to pinpoint somebody, get them figured out.
Mhm.
And so that lends itself to, ooh, you're so credible. Wow, you're so good at that. You
Mhm.
really read me right. Um,
Sit with it for a second. This is important.
mhm.
Just notice how you're feeling in this moment.
Yeah, a lot of ego. And I wish I could say that only happens in the beginning.
Mm.
It's happening, can happen throughout. Again, because then I feel like I'm trying to justify my worth to continue doing the work that I'm doing with people, with that client or what have you. Yeah, it's a little ooh. Why does it always come back to me?
Good question. Well, think about this. What was the question that you originally had it written down? You were reading it. What was
How
the
to
question?
show up, as myself, the cheerleader. And but how could that take away from like the ICF approach?
Well, how is the question changed because of our conversation then? or evolved?
Well, it's a different question, actually.
What is it?
It's not the best worded question, so forgive me here, but so why do I feel the need to try to figure people out?
That sounds
And
succinct to me.
what's that?
It's a succinct question.
Yeah. And it's about showing how smart I am, or it's about showing how good a read I am on people, which is makes, you know, in my little head, well, that makes me a better coach. And you know, it's interesting. I mean, it's good to have a read on people, but it's good to also test it and challenge the assumption and not assume, oh, good one. Yeah, did it, they
Mhm.
did it again, right? Like, so it's an opportunity to leave some room for possibility, and maybe even like bring less of the ego into it. It's not about that.
What is it about instead?
Like paying attention to everything. I mean, all of these are inputs, right? They're all inputs. But it's really about, it's not about me. It's about really getting to know the person and in kind of like trying to be really fast in this.
Mhm.
Like maybe there are things I'm missing because I've kind of already made some assumptions.
You know, I'm feeling myself really lean in to you, Paul, because I'm more drawn to, and I'm always drawn to you, but in a different way. I'm drawn to you now as you say that, because there's a vulnerability to your admission,
Yeah.
you know, to, oh, about me, you know. That moment of, oh, I'm really drawn into you and to your warmth. And I'm curious, what are you noticing right now between the two of us in
Huh.
this moment?
Interesting.
What?
That you're drawn to that, but drawn to it, not a quality that I mean, vulnerability is something people have said that I bring to the coaching, but this vulnerability in being open to not knowing or feeling like I need to know. Interesting that it could open up more. It could open up more for the client. If you're saying you're leaning in,
Mhm.
you know, if they're, you know, it's like, and I'm not a psychologist, or I'm not a psychiatrist, so I'm not there to like assess them, but that's what I'm doing in essence.
What's
So
important to you now about this reflection and how you approach your coaching and practice with people?
yeah, they're not there to be analyzed and assessed. Oh, ooh,
What's the who?
it's actually an application to how it shows up in life as well for me. So people who know that I'm a coach, you know, they come to you because you can be a committed listener. They can, you know, you can do this, but they don't come to you to be analyzed and assessed. And if there's stuff you're picking up, and you can, you can just first do that for yourself to understand that you're doing that, or like that you're checking the assumptions, then playing it back earlier than later could open up a lot more opportunity for them to share in a way that doesn't feel like, I'm assessing and evaluating them.
It feels more human and connected, more relational and partnership.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. It's like, yeah, this has really come up for me actually a little bit, a couple of times, even through the mentoring, about demonstrating value, demonstrating credibility,
Mm-hmm.
and so that piece, I feel, has been the thing that allows me to do that. But I'm getting an opportunity to look at that and say, what could it be doing actually? Could it be hurting, or could it not allow me to access? And could I give that up?
Mm-hmm.
And you know what it's doing right now, even it's just allowing for space. Yeah. Because if I came in and I'm like, I'm doing that dance, then I'm just trying to be really fast about figuring it out, so I can show, how good a coach I am. And then, yeah, I mean, it's not about that really. It's about what's in service to the client. And okay, I can read certain things, but okay, why not be more explicit about that? Because that actually could be like, then you are like playing back what you're seeing, and right. And so that's actually valuable,
Yeah.
as opposed to, feeling like I'm really good at assessing people.
A couple of observations I'd offer up for you. One is this desire to provide value, or to know, like to feel it, to know it, not just believe it. To
Yeah.
know it and believe it, is you've earned that already. Look at the PCC certificate behind you. You've earned it. What more do you need? That's the first one. And the second one is creating space.
Yeah.
Wow. Like I feel breath, I feel spirit, I feel like in this moment, I feel like I felt the space as you were sharing your thoughts in this moment.
Yeah.
And that's a mirror of the opportunity or the space you're creating for your coachee.
For sure.
In what way for you, you think? In what way will that manifest for you now?
It's like even hearing myself think in the space, but then allowing them to really take in what what I'm experiencing of them, and then giving them the opportunity to say yay or nay. And so it's very much there. I mean, they're in the driver's seat then. It's not about me I'm actually kind of relinquishing a little bit of control over to them, to guide this where they need to be guided. Wow. Oof, there's a lot there, Lucy.
If you were to encapsulate the a lot there into 1 or 2 words, what comes up?
Bottom line is worry less about providing value. Showing up is providing value. Sharing what is happening in the moment, sharing what I'm feeling, maybe once I have digested it, like it might not be right away. It is okay. Is okay. And maybe not leaving it for so late in the development of the relationship. So just doing that a little faster for myself, checking my own assumptions, and then being a little bit quicker, not to sit on that and just actually share it, so that then there could be more that could come out as a result of that.
I'm leaning in again. I feel like I'm leaning in again. I'm noticing the result of this reflective dialogue of you and I in supervision. Who benefits the most?
Oh, me. For sure.
Followed by?
Well, hopefully the coach too, right? But I think the coach, you as the coach in supervision, would benefit from knowing that you were able to help me see myself.
I think about supervision as being super is pursuit of excellence in the dictionary definition, and vision is of you as coach. What's your vision of you as coach and your impact on coachee, their system, and the coaching profession, their client, the client system, be it family system or organizational or community.
Yeah.
And the coaching profession.
Yeah, because that would, there's a standard, right? There's a level of nuance that it's not just going through the actions. It's like really being, it feels very rich. It feels very voluminous. I can never say that word right, but there's more around it. It's not about, it's not about figuring somebody out and then, right? It's about, oh my goodness, there's lots in this space here, right? And
possibilities.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts before we close?
No, just always amazes me how I can come with a question and then it goes into another area that I get to see myself in. So thank you for creating the space for that conversation today.
You're welcome. And thanks for making this work too for us. I know we had to schedule a couple of times, so
Yeah,
I will be sharing the recording, and on behalf of other learners too, thank you.
my pleasure. Thank you. Thank you.
I'll stop the recording now.
So welcome back, everybody. And thank you, Lucy, for sharing this recording. Did she give you permission to share beyond this group? It's okay to... Okay, great. Great. So other people who are not here can benefit too. So what we're going to do, usually at the top of the hour, we take a 5-minute break to stretch. So let's take 5 minutes, and when we come back, we're going to work in small groups and we are going to share what we learn. So our guests are welcome to stay. Sometimes people get like, they think that they need to go, but you're welcome to stay and learn and hear the conversation around the session. So if you can, please stay with us. We are going to try to take 5 minutes break. Okay, we'll be back in 5 minutes. So thank you, Lucy, again. That was a great session. Great session. Let's stop here. Hey, welcome back. Welcome back. So let's hear from the two groups that were working together. So the group that was working with Lucy had an advantage that you have Lucy with you. So who would like to start from that group?
I can start. I think all of us were admitting to writing copious notes during the demo.
Good.
I think we all write mini essays. I think the things that came out for all of us is that it's a great demo in terms of like showing up 4, 5, and 6, as you were telling us, Damien, last week about our recordings that we came through. And I think all of us came to the conclusion that once all of this assessment is over, we can all show up more like Lucy, to be like really in the present moment and not try to think about having to think about what questions do I ask to demo 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah, could you see, well, for our guest, this what we're talking about is a model from Peter Hawkins that is called 7-eye model. And each eye has a variable that we are looking at. So we are looking at the client, we are looking at what the coach is doing with the client, we are looking at the relationship between the coach and the client, we are looking at what's happening to the coach, we're looking at in the here and now what's happening between the coach and the supervisor, what's happening to the supervisor, and what's happening in the context in the system. And I think Lucy did a really beautiful job in bringing herself to the session. And this is one of the challenges in the program. How do you do that? How do you bring yourself? And you see how naturally Lucy did it.
Yeah.
And it's about just being present to what's happening to you and connecting with yourself. So many of the coaching training is about forgetting yourself and focusing on the client. And you forget what information, your body, your emotions, is information that you are receiving that can be helpful for the client to get insight, or for the coach in this case, to get insights about what's going on. So I think Lucy did it several times during the session, was bringing herself. So I think that, and then she asked her, whatever is happening to me, what's happening to you? Remember, like that's the parallel process, that's the question that we want to learn how to ask. So the people who are working with in your group, Kevin, anybody else has a comment or note about the session?
It was just a beautiful demonstration of giving her supervisee a lot of space to reflect and evolve on her own, and how she changed the question, and it had everything to do with her and her processing and reflecting through the situation with this client, which is beautiful. It was, yeah.
I agree. Anybody else from that group want to share?
We just reflected back on the eyes that we observed and how she went right into the system from the going out the gate. We heard beautiful parallel processes and 6 and 7, and was our discussion.
And a beautiful reminder to check our assumptions about everything.
Yeah.
Can I comment on that?
Yes.
I thought she said assumptions, but I must have heard it because she said, oh, I didn't thought about that. It's like, check your assumptions. And so it was an interesting blind spot in a sense of assumptions are taken as truths. There's a revelation in that moment, for vulnerable revelation too.
Yeah. Big time.
Well,
yeah, go ahead, Judy.
I was just going to say the parallel process of the assumption that it was assumptions and that she knew.
I love that.
So Judy, since you shared that, would you like to continue what happened in your trial with Jonathan and Yvonne?
Oh gosh. I mean, a lot of similar stuff to what the others just shared. Yvonne, Kevin, jump in, or Yvonne, Kevin, sorry, I'm looking at Kevin, Yvonne and Jonathan, jump in with your pieces. I know for me, I went through very much paying attention for like what were the questions and the timing of particular questions that really drew me. And I'll just share a couple of those. Everything from like at the very beginning,
not even just saying, you know, what's the topic you want to bring, right? It was, how would you like to share it with me, the topic? And I was like, I was saying in the group, like, she could have drawn her a picture or sung a song. Like it was totally open to like whatever form it took for the supervisee. And that just really opened the space and the partnering from the very beginning. And there was, I also like the fact that because she had started so general, I find this in a lot of supervision sessions, that it was such a great demonstration of how important it is to ground it in a client case, even if it is a general topic. Is there even just an example of this you can think of? And what I've noticed is that doesn't even then have to last the rest of the session, even though in this one it stayed relevant and it became, you know, the topic, and it was very much grounded in a client session. But even if somebody has a client come to mind that's an example of the thing they're talking about, it can be so powerful to just to ground them in that moment, even if it then goes general again. Yvonne and Jonathan, what would you add?
Yeah, great session, Lucy. We shared a lot. Echo what Judy have mentioned. I particularly enjoy the whole sequence of the whole process. You know, from the onset of the question, the rapport, how you build that. Even had a moment of centering right at the beginning, not too long, but it was useful for her, for Paula. There were many great moments of coaching I noticed for her, but at the same time, you brought it back to the client and what does it mean for the client when she has a deeper realization. So that was very useful. And a lot of the 4, 5, 6, and even I6 came up pretty early in terms of your observations. So sometimes you always think that, hey, you know, it has to be in a sequential, but not really, right? When you're in the dance, certain steps can come earlier. And I noticed that, you know, so different parts was just showing up, great use of metaphors from your own observation. I also noticed that you picked up things like, oh, you know, when you made an expression. So what is coming to you? You know, what are you noticing? There was certain parts, and I think it was almost like towards the tail end. When you noticed something, you brought it up. What is happening between the two of us? And then you brought it back to the client. So what does this mean to your client with this kind of things that you're reflecting on? So a lot of reflective space. She was really good and open, expressive in doing that. And I like the end recap on how you kind of like recap, you know, what is 2 things that is coming out from you from all this conversation. And I'll save a quote of the day from Yvonne. I'll give Yvonne the chance to share that quote of the line on what vulnerability means to her. So over to you, Yvonne.
It's so funny, Jonathan. I was really talking about how I was struck about the level of intimacy and vulnerability that came up as you were talking, and how the reflective space really promotes that. And it came up so powerfully when you were doing it, Lucy. And, you know, it's something that I've noticed as well. And so in our conversation, the quote that I was saying is, you know, because coaching can be intimate. And I think I prefaced it by saying, I thought that the coaching space was intimate, but supervision is the naked space of coaching. There's so much transparency and so much vulnerability that comes through. And I'm not sure if it's just, you know, the process or it's coach to coach. So much gets stripped away so quickly in bringing the cases and bringing the clients and really reflecting in on oneself, that it truly is a level of vulnerability and transparency that is very rarely, I think, seen in this kind of modality. And so I'm always struck by the power and the honor of it, really. It's a wonderful thing to be in the space with someone and entrusted with that as we're walking through with them in it. And so it's just, I'm mindful of it and humble because of it as well.
Yvonne, great point, because if you want the supervisee to be vulnerable and open up, and for our guest today, the supervisee is like the metaphor of being naked, bringing questions, areas of insecurity, and you need to model that vulnerability. So as a supervisor, you need to be willing to be vulnerable yourself, because if you cannot do that, it's going to be very difficult for the coach to open up and bring their concerns or their areas where they feel less confident or weak or challenged. So this is a good reminder, Yvonne, how we need to embrace as supervisors our own vulnerability, and in some way being role models for these coaches that we're working with. Great point. Yes, Judy.
Oh, one last thing I realized that struck me, that I feel remiss if I didn't mention this, especially since at least 4 of us in this room are systemic team coaches. But Lucy, you did such a great job of bringing the larger systems into the mix, and I'm always looking for, and I felt like this was such a great example of what are some creative, and in this case also subtle, ways of just reminding us that we are nested within systems, right? And so it came up multiple times, whether it was the coaching or a cultural context or whatever, like just any opportunity that came up, even just bringing it into the space and seeing what happens with it.
So for our guest, I don't know, Jill, David, anything you want to share? Any comments, reactions, observations?
Well,
Go ahead. You go ahead, David. I'll go after you.
Oh, ladies first, please.
Oh, I was really impressed by the demonstration, Lucy. It was masterful, really. And I'm not used to, I've been supervised, but I haven't watched it from the perspective of looking at it from the supervisor with the coach. And so I thought it was incredible. And like Yvonne said, it kind of provided that naked perspective, but it was almost like entering with a towel and the towel fell off. Like it was almost like a surprise, like, oh my God, like I'm naked. I felt like that's kind of what happened, because he kind of stepped into something and went, oh, wait a minute. Like it was like a shock to her, like, oh my God, this is me. And is this my ego? And she started to kind of look at it. And then you just masterfully just like, I mean, it's obvious there was no judgment, but just so safely opened this reflective space to just allow for her to come into her own, her own realizations about herself and what she wants for herself and where she is. And I was wishing I was her, because how valuable that was, the wisdom that was emerging for her. And I was thinking, wow, this is an incredible skill to have. So thank you for including me today. I love it.
Thanks for being here, Jill. Jill and I know each other well. Hi, Jill.
Yes, we do.
Great.
We go way back. And Judy too.
And Judy, yeah.
Yeah.
David, anything you want to share?
Yeah, well, I mean, thank you for welcoming me into your casa, and Holly set me up for this. Just a few hours ago, really, we were on the phone and said you should check this out. I really appreciated what I heard, what I saw. I learned a lot just about this. There was this comfortable provocation that was going on, like ongoing, and this extreme vulnerability, like on both sides, that just that is hard to it's hard to get into that space, and so clearly I speak with a lot of naivete, because I don't know a lot about the supervision space, but clearly I was thinking, okay, there's a process here, and these folks know a lot more about kind of how they're unpacking the conversation, but I really liked to see the insights and Paula go to some places that she didn't think she was going to get to.
She was a great supervisor too. I always tell people, because I train coaches too, and I said, to be a great coach, you need a great client. Here, to be a great supervisor, you need a great supervisee. Also somebody who is ready to do the work.
Yeah.
We provide the space, but then we had to have somebody who's willing to go there. And I think she was pretty willing. And also Lucy, that talk about the trust that she has towards you too. It's like she really trusted you to go to all of these places, even knowing that she was being recorded. So that says a lot. Because this is the other variant. It's difficult for people to open up so much when they're being recorded, because we always wonder, okay, people are going to be judging us. So it's not so easy to find recordings like this one. So I want just to give you a lot of credit, Lucy, for that.
Appreciate that. I'd had our supervisor before, so she was someone who hadn't supervised. So just to give you, I just thought about
I give
that.
you more credit. I give you more credit. Most of the time,
Oh, we knew each other.
Like, you knew each other from the other place you're working together. But that was pretty amazing session. I think we were all very lucky to have you with us today, Lucy. Thank you for being always so generous and willing to support this program over the years.
You're welcome.
I don't know if there is anything else anybody want to say before we wrap up the session today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
So
Lucy.
let's recognize Lucy.
Yes.
Lucy, great. Thank you very much for all your support. And we are going to stay 5 minutes only with the participants of the program just to talk about some logistics. And we appreciate the guest and Lucy for coming today. I wrote my email in the chat box. If you want to be in contact with me, you have any questions about the program or about supervision. We have this one, I think two more, I think, of this on Tuesdays. And then we finish the program. We're getting close to the end of this program. But we are starting the new cohort, and there is, if for some reason you want to join, the free demos are going to be on Thursdays mornings, the last Thursday of the month at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And I am going to be doing the first one. So you're welcome to come to see me, on the first Thursday of April, because in March we were starting. So Lucy, thank you.
So Paula sent me an email asking, because she wanted to join this session but couldn't.
Yes.
How can she have the recording of this, the
I
demo?
will send, if she's okay for her to share that, I can ask her if it's okay to download it to YouTube.
Yeah.
If it is okay, there are two possibilities. One is just for people who are looking for it, and one is open to everybody. So there are these two possibilities. Ask her what is her preference, and I can give you the link.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.